So in the stock market, in order to profit consistently, we have to look at a few things like the trend, we look at indicators, we look at candlesticks and all that, right? But there's just one thing that is really, really important that I use as well, right, to increase my odds of winning, to increase the probability of winning in the long run, right? And what is that? That is none other than chart patterns, right? So in this video, right, this very video here, we'll be looking at chart patterns. Pretty much the only trading video you need to watch if you're looking at chart patterns, and we'll focus on how chart patterns can help us to gauge our entry and exit. How do we actually build a plan on it? How do we build rules whereby we can know when to enter and when to exit? So in this video, we'll be looking at chart patterns. If you want to know how to use chart patterns, how to know when to get in and get out, and how to look at a few other factors combined with chart patterns that can increase your odds of winning, make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. Appreciate if you can give me an early thumbs up. It will definitely help out the channel, and thank you so much for doing this, right? So what exactly is a chart pattern? So basically, let me just explain to you what is a chart pattern about. So basically, these are some patterns that we see on the chart itself, right, whereby it can point towards either a reversal or a continuation. There are pretty much just two types of chart pattern, right? So a reversal would be, if we see like this chart pattern that points towards a reversal, it means that the trend has kind of like turned from an uptrend to a bit of a downtrend. That means it kind of like reversals from moving up to moving down. Does it make sense? All right. If it's like a reversal from a down to an upwards direction, that would be a reversal as well. So reversal chart pattern would point towards a reversal in the trend direction, or a reversal in the movement of this stock from up to down or from down to up. So that is like the first type of chart patterns, which would be what we call a reversal chart pattern. So we look at that, we look at different types of reversal chart patterns. I'll just look at the top reversal pattern that you want to look at as well. All right, I'll share with you in a bit. And let's go on to another type that would be the continuation patterns, right? So the first one would be reversal chart patterns. The second type would be continuation patterns. What is continuation patterns? So basically, a continuation patterns would just mean that if a stock were to move up, and if we see a pattern forming like this, right, somewhere is moving up, it can kind of like continue to push higher, all right, in an uptrend if it's up, or if it's moving down, that means it's like moving down, 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 and we see this pattern, and that's where it can continue to hit even lower. Does it make sense? All right, so continuation pattern as well, we have up and down. All right, reversal pattern, which is what I mentioned just now for the first type, is pretty much a change in the direction of the stock from up to down or down to up. So just to take note that for this video, we will be looking at the first type, which would be the reversal chart patterns, right? Whether was it from down to up or from up to down, right? So for the second type, which would be the continuation pattern, I'll probably do it in another video. You can check it out again when it's ready. Make sure you smash the subscribe button so that you will not miss out whenever a new video is ready, right? So let's just dive into the reversal chart patterns right now. So let's take a look at a reversal pattern first, right? So the first type of reversal pattern that I'd like to share with you will be what we call a head and shoulders pattern. So what is a head and shoulder pattern? So basically, this is a pattern whereby we do, if we do see it somewhere at the top, that means if prices have pushed up, and we see it right at the top, and it could potentially see a reversal back down from up to a bit of a downtrend, right? So let me explain to you what I mean by this head and shoulder pattern. So for example, we have a stock that moves like this, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down. All right, so a stock when it's moving in an uptrend, it will not just like move up every single day. Sometimes we'll see a little bit of pullback, a little bit of profit taking, because people would like to take some profit along the way as well, even though it's moving up. All right, so we have this stock that moves up and down, and what happens is this, right? We may see a little bit of profit taking, and sellers may start to come back, all right, somewhere around here at the top, whereby we see what we call a first shed, a first kind of like shoulder. It moves up, down. Let me explain to you in a bit. And this is what we see right here. And we might see a little bit of profit taking and start to head down right here, right? So this is something like an head and shoulder pattern, So we can actually go to draw what we call a support line right here. So this is like something like a support line. So why is this a head and shoulder reversal pattern? For example, right, so as I mentioned, this is what we call an upward sloping channel support line. We can draw this line right here. So it's pretty much in an upward sloping line. All right, this is a stock that's moving up. All right, and you can see it moves up, 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 down right here. Okay, and okay, let me just make this a little bit thicker for you. You can see. So this is like I'm just drawing it for you live, so you can see right here. So it's pretty much a strong uptrend, right? And it push higher, we form what we call higher lows and higher highs, right? So that's a sign of a good uptrend. So hopefully when we see a head and shoulder pattern, then there could be some signs of the trend turning, or there could be some signs of weakness coming in, or sellers coming back stronger, right? So the first sign of weakness would be right here, whereby we to break this channel support line. You can see as we break this channel support line right here, all right, that could be a sign of weakness as well, right? In terms of the trend looking a bit shaky, you have kind of like broke this upward sloping channel support line. So this is the first sign of weakness, right? Not talking about patterns yet, right? But pretty much just from this upward sloping channel support line, all right, there could be some sign of weakness. So let me just go ahead to remove this, and we look at the head and shoulder pattern, right, to further confirm in terms of a reversal. So this is a head and shoulder pattern right here. We have what we call the first left shoulder. All right, so it shows that buyers are still getting here, all right, to push prices higher. It goes up, it comes back down to this support, which at this point in time is still normal. It could actually push higher, push higher, right? So we have found a little bit of support at this price level here, all right, and then start to buyers come back, all right, it came down, right, so let's push it down, went to this support, buyers came up and pushed up, and went to this higher peak. So at this point in time, there is still no indication of a head and shoulder pattern. So most people make the mistake of guessing or predicting that it will be a head and shoulder pattern when it has not formed yet, right? So at this point in time, to be honest, at this point in time right here, there would not be any signs of a head and shoulder, because you can actually just go back down and retrace back down a little bit and continue to find a new high and push higher, right? So there is no head and shoulder pattern right here when we were to see the peak. All right, so let me just continue. So from this peak here, you can see sellers came back and push it down, back to this support level, right here. You can see started to rebound. All right, so that would be the first sign of weakness right here. I would say this would be the right shoulder, right? The right shoulder, you can see this is the right shoulder here. And this time when buyers came back to push prices up, right? It pushes up to this level and is below the high of the peak. Does it make sense, right? So it's below the high of the peak. So the first peak was here, right? So that was where buyers came back to push prices there, all right? And then same thing, they pushed price up again, but this time it was like lower than the peak. It shows that buyers are not able to push it even back to the same high as previous, or maybe even higher. All right, it just pushes them up to somewhere around the halfway mark, and sellers came back to push it down. So there's a sign of weakness. There's a sign of weakness. Of course, at up to here, there are still no confirmation of a head and shoulder. It's still pretty much forming. There's some sign of weakness, and as I say, we have broke the upward sloping channel support line as well. So some signs of weakness definitely. All right, but in terms of a head and shoulder pattern, it still has not completely formed up yet. Right. So when has it completely formed up? Let me just show you. Right. So you can see right here. All right, as it push up to the second shoulder, we're at pretty much a peak right here on the second right shoulder right here. All right, and so this is the left shoulder, the right shoulder, and we have the head. So this is like a head and shoulder pattern, right? So as it push down right here, you can see that we eventually break this support level right here. This would be the key, right? This would be the key right here. If we were to break this support level, then that could be a very good confirmation that this head and shoulder pattern has completed its form up fully, and we might really start to see a reversal of this stock from moving up. It could be a few months, a few years, to potentially down. Does it make sense, right? So that is the head and shoulder reversal pattern, right? So as it pushes down, you can see that as it pushes down, all right, we might see prices moving down, all right, and it goes down. As I say, even if it goes down, it does not just go down every single day. Why? Because people who have shorted, they might want to come back to cover some shorts, they want to buy back, we might see a bit of technical rebound, it comes back down, it comes up again, all right, and you can see that, sellers came back and pushed it back down. So this would be what we call the support level that it has broken, and this support would now become like a resistance level, right? So as long as prices were to stay below, all right, this new resistance level, that is where potentially, all right, the trend might be down. So we can actually go ahead to draw, what we call a downward sloping channel resistance line right here, connecting what we call the highs, and you can see as it moves down and down, it's forming lower highs. All right, so this is how it works, right? For a head and shoulder pattern, we want to wait for more confirmation right here with kind of like, prices breaking this support, which has now turned to a resistance level, right? So that's a confirmation of a head and shoulder pattern. So that's the first type of a reversal pattern from an upwards direction to a downwards direction. So let's take a look at a case study first before we look at another reversal pattern. All right, and that's pretty much we're looking at the inverse head and shoulder. Next, we something like this, right? But then we're looking at from like down to up, right? So let's take a look at the head and shoulder pattern and a case study. So we have looked at the head and shoulder pattern, all right, which is the first reversal pattern from an upwards direction to a downwards direction, right? So let's take a look at a case study right here. So this is a head and shoulder pattern, right, which is a reversal pattern, right? So look at this right here. You can see that this is a stock, all right, that kind of like moves up, right? It's quite a good uptrend, I would say. We can in fact go ahead to draw what we call an upward sloping channel support line right here, right? So it's quite a decent uptrend, I would say, over the past 2 years, and this is a green line here. All right, let's turn it to green in color. All right, so yeah, this is okay. So this is a kind of like an upward sloping channel support line. It's been holding quite well. All right, and started to push up. All right, went up to about the $85, $90, and we see a little bit of profit taking, sellers coming back, and we have broke down some of those support levels, right? So let me just go to remove this line first. So that is the first sign of weakness, because we can see that we have broken this upward sloping channel support line, this green line, right? Does it make sense? All right, so that's the first sign of weakness, right? But let's take a look at whether we can see what we call a head and shoulder pattern, right? Like what we have drawn in this diagram right at the top here, right? So let's see if we can find this in this stock right here. So you can see that, there is something like a head and shoulder pattern that has formed up and played out, right? So there could potentially be a little bit of reversal or the trend turning down, right? If we do break some of those key support levels. So let's see where is the head and shoulder pattern, right? So this would be, I would say, a head right here. If you can see it, this is like something like a head. So this is like the peak right here. It's about the $92 for this stock. All right, and the left shoulder will be somewhere around here. Can you see it, right? So this is a left shoulder, all right, like what is seen over here, the left shoulder, okay, and same thing, right? So if you have a left shoulder, buyers kind of like push prices up, came back down, found a little bit of support around that 75 levels. You can see near the 75, 80, started to rebound. We got a peak. We went back down to this like 75 support level as well, all right, and buyers came up to push it back up. So at this point in time, right, there wouldn't be something like a head and shoulder because the right shoulder is not even formed yet, right? But we started to push up, and somewhere around here, right at that $85 right here, somewhere around 85, 83 level, right? That's where we started to see sellers coming back. In fact, we saw a couple of bearish candles right here, whereby there's some bearish price actions, sellers coming back to push prices all the way back down, right? And then this is where we started to see a little bit of selling. So this is like something like a bearish candlestick. This is something like a bearish candlestick right here, right? Somewhere around that 84, 85 level. You can see a couple of long upper shadow candles, which shows that sellers are coming back at the day end to push prices down, right? So not a good thing, and then we saw it broke the 82 and went down, right? So this would be what we call the right shoulder. The right shoulder, it pushes down. So at this point in time, when we see prices pushing down, there could be some signs of the head and shoulder, but it's still not confirmed yet because we haven't broke what we call that key support level. So another thing I want to add would be this key support level, right? We can just call it a support level. Like look at this right here. This is a support level. As I mentioned just now, we rebounded, we broke it. Some people also call it what we call a neckline. All right, a neckline. So that's fine. All right, I mean, you can call it a support and neckline, doesn't matter. All right, but maybe it's a neckline. Yeah, so it's something like a support. So basically, when we break this neckline or like a support, that is where we get more confirmation. So when did this stock actually broke this neckline or this support? And somewhere around here, as I say, this is the $75 level, and it seems like we have broken, all right, this $75 neckline support. Right here, we become like went below, and so far we are still below, all right, this new support. So right, this 75 would be something like a support, as I mentioned, right? So we have broke this support, and now it has become what we call a resistance level right here. So this line has changed from like a green to a red in color, because that would be like new resistance now. So as long as we stay below that 75 level, there could potentially be more downside. There could potentially be a reversal from what we have seen previously, a very, very strong uptrend to a downwards direction. So that's where we can see more weakness right now, from 75 all the way down towards the next support level at about that maybe 65. You can see like 65 over the past like 2 months. Buyers are starting to come back to do a bit of bargain hunting, so rebounded a little bit. All right, but you can see as it approaches that 75 level, all right, sellers are still coming back to push prices down. All right, so as long as we stay below that 75, right, that's where there could be more downside, and that's where this head and shoulder patterns, it's a reversal pattern, can still play out, right? So if we do break this 65 level, so that we can go to draw, I mean, just to give you a little bit of understanding, right, we can go to draw what we call another support line right here, maybe around that 55 to 56 level. You can see right here, this is a little bit of support. Let's put it in green in color. You see it has been holding in 2020, rebounded a couple of times. So that could be actually the new downside if we break that 65 support level. They can actually start to hit down, right? As I say, right, if it hits down and down, that's where we can form what we call lower highs, right? Lower highs, like what we see over here. It goes lower and lower. You can see lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. And that's what exactly is happening, right? So you might actually see prices kind of moving. As it, look at this, it comes down, moves up, right, consolidate, eventually it might up a little bit, it might break the support here, push it up, consolidate, it break the support again, and what we call lower highs, right, lower highs. So if we see this, there's a good confirmation that this head and shoulder reversal pattern has continued to play out, and we might see more and more weakness. So if you're holding on to stock like this, it breaks this neckline, then you want to be careful. You want to think about maybe reducing some exposure or get out based on your plan as well. So if we see this, right, we could kind of build a plan to take the downside move, right, basically to profit from the downside by taking short positions, right? So we can kind of like take short positions. Let me just remove this right here. So we can kind of like take positions right here. Perhaps if we were to head back towards that 75, near 74, 73, that's where selling can come back again, right? We can have a stop loss just a few bits, maybe like 77, 78, just in case it moves up. You want to get out. All right, if it moves up, it breaks above this level, then you want to think about getting out if you're taking a short position, right? But as long as it stays below that 75, we can potentially see more downside. So that is kind of like the plan that we can begin. Let me just show it to you. All right, this is the plan. If you do see kind of like a head and shoulder pattern, you can take like a short position right here. All right, so this is maybe like a stop loss here. Downside could be maybe towards that, as I say, around that 65 level. All right, so reward to risk about 2.8. All right, so this is pretty much the plan that you can take to ride the downside further, right, ride the downside further, because we have seen a confirmation from this head and shoulder pattern. So one of the key mistakes that people make, when trading a head and shoulder pattern would be, as I say just now, to guess that it's a head and shoulder pattern when it's not completely formed up yet. All right, so we want to wait for, as I say, a break of that key support or the neckline before it is formed. All right, so that's the first mistake. And the next mistake would be, if you see a head and shoulder pattern, some people might think that, because it's a head and shoulder pattern, then that's it, right? This stock will, potentially hit all the way down. It's time to get out, because it might just go down, it might crash all the way down, and it'll go all the way down, right? So that's the second mistake. So it doesn't mean that if you see a head and shoulder pattern, I mean, yes, it can increase the odds of the downside because of, a head and shoulder pattern completed or being formed, right? But it doesn't 100% or 90% mean that it will hit all the way down because of a head and shoulder pattern. Because what happens is we might actually see what we call kind of like it trading, right? Trading lower. So yes, the head and shoulder pattern is completed. We might push down here, up, down. All right. So as long as we stay below 75, yes, it's still weak. But the point here is this doesn't mean a head and shoulder pattern form means it is bound to head down for sure. The trend will turn down all the way for sure. No, right? Because we might actually hit down. We break this neckline support, as I say right here, but we can actually consolidate here, up, down, and eventually, if we were to break up here again, all right, at this level, that would be where, all right, we might start to see buyers coming up again. So yes, we have a head and shoulder pattern forming, all right, but we consolidate here. Anytime if we were to get back above that neckline or this main 75 resistance, that could be a sign of strength coming back again, right? So just take note, does not mean that we see a head and shoulder means even though it's completed, it means you will just hit all the way down. It can only hit down if we were to break the next support level. It consolidates, it breaks the next support, yes, then we can hit down. But if we actually go back up above that resistance, right, the support turn resistance or the neckline, that's where strength can actually come back again, right? So we want to have a plan, as I say, right? We can have a plan to ride the downside, or we can have a plan to ride the downside in terms of it pushing down. We have a stop loss in case it pushes up, or we can also wait for prices to come back up above this resistance to potentially take a long position to ride the reversal again. So guys, do like this video if you have gained some value so far. I would really appreciate an early thumbs up and smash the subscribe button if you like more videos like this, right? So let's move on to another reversal pattern, right? So pretty much just the opposite of what we call the head and shoulder pattern. Now it is the inverse head and shoulder pattern. So why is it inverse? Basically, it's just the opposite. You can just look at it, it's like upside down, all right? And that's the inverse head and shoulder pattern, whereby we are looking at, in terms of the reversal, from a downwards direction to an upwards direction. It could be a trend turning from down to up. So that is an inverse head and shoulder pattern. So that's a good thing, right? If we do see it somewhere at the bottom with prices pushing down, and we see it, that could be a sign of more upside to come, or the trend like pushing higher, or turning up. Alright, so this is an inverse head and shoulder pattern. I'll just cover it very quickly. You can see prices moving down, up, pushing lower and lower, what we call forming lower lows, right, and lower highs, right? And we can also what we call draw a downward sloping channel resistance line right here. So as we break this line right here, somewhere around here, you can see as we break this channel resistance line here, okay, let me just draw it for you here, that, as I say, could be some sign of strength. That could be some sign of strength in terms of buyers are prepared to come back, all right, and break this channel resistance line that pretty much has been consolidating below, right, as it pushes lower and lower. So as it breaks this line, that could be some of the first sign of strength, all right, but not really an inverse head and shoulder pattern that's formed yet, right? So let me just go to remove this line first and this line, right? And you can see that we have a head and shoulder pattern, because as it moves down, all right, there's a peak and buyers came back and prices kind of like rebounds back up, went back to this like resistance level right here, and sellers came back to push prices down, all right, and that's what we call the shoulder. So there's a left shoulder here, all right, let me just go to draw it for you. So this is like the left shoulder and the right shoulder, right, and this would be the peak. So this is something like an inverse head and shoulder pattern. So when would it be completely formed? Right here, right? As I say, we want to see a break of this resistance level. That would be a key resistance level. It is what we call the neckline resistance level as well, all right? And if we do break this level right here, all right, on pretty decent volume, all right, that could be a sign of strength. That could be a sign of strength whereby, you know, buyers are prepared to take it higher, and the trend could potentially turn from like down to an upwards direction. So as we continue to push higher, as I say, we might move up, a bit of profit taking, because people might want to take some profit as well, push us back down, all right, and it form a low, all right, we bounce up, go back down, form a low. So as it forms what we call higher lows, right, that is where we can go to draw what we call an upward sloping, all right, channel support line, right? So that would be like a new channel support line if this stock were to really reverse direction from like a down to up. As it continue to push higher, you know, it might go up and up. For example, you know, we can just push here up, down, up, down, as it continues to push higher. That's what we can see if, you know, this inverse head and shoulder pattern were to play out, right? So let's take a look at the live case study to see if you can spot it, all right, and what does it mean, and how can we build a strategy or a trade plan based on this inverse head and shoulder patterns. Okay, so I've managed to find this stock right here that shows some signs of an inverse head and shoulder pattern that is being formed, but it's not completed yet, right? It's not, as I say, we want to wait for some good completion. We want to wait for it to break that key neckline resistance level, all right, before taking any positions, or before a good confirmation that a reversal has indeed happened, or has indeed played out, all right, or can continue to play out. Alright, so this is this stock right here, alright, stock code I think ADMA, alright, and this is what we see over here. So I think there are some signs of an inverse head and shoulder pattern forming. Let me just go to draw it for you, alright, and I would say this would be kind of like the peak right here. That would be the peak, all right, right at the bottom, the lowest point essentially, all right, and this would be something like what we call the shoulder, right? That would be like a bit of a shoulder right here. This is like the left shoulder, and this would be something like the right shoulder, right? Or maybe this would be even the left shoulder right here. You can see we kind of rebounded slightly, all right, but I think somewhere around here that would be kind of like a left shoulder as well, all right? So you can see as it pushes lower, all right, this is what we call lower lows, right? Lower lows. So at this point in time right here until 2021 October, as we hit a new low, all right, there were still signs of weakness. There was still sign of weakness that the downtrend could actually continue and could push lower and lower, all right. But somewhere around here, as it pushes back up, you can see we hit it to this level around that 180, or right? 180 will be what we call a firm resistance level, whereby you have traded below, we neared it, it came back down, and right here you can see that buyers are starting to come back, all right, to bargain hunt, all right, or to buy at higher prices. So it did not really went back down to the previous low around the $1 mark, but somewhere around 120. Right, buyers are starting to come back, all right, to bargain hunt, right? So that's a good sign. That's a good sign of strength. So it started to rebound back up, went back. You can see right here to that neckline resistance at about the 180 or about 180, and that is where sellers came back to push it back down. So what happens is this inverse head and shoulder pattern has not completely formed up yet. Yes, I mean it's still like forming, but it has not like been confirmed, right? Because it has not broken this neckline resistance as I mentioned, right? So what happens is we might see prices kind of like trading. Look at this right here. So it might like move up, down. Oops, sorry. So we might move. So prices might actually move up, down, here, up, down, and eventually if we break this resistance level, this neckline resistance level here, then we can say that there could potentially be more upside right here because we have broken this neckline resistance level. That's a sign of like strength in terms of this like kind of like an inverse head and shoulder pattern. So that could be something like, I mean, normally we want to see like a peak, all right, a left shoulder and a right shoulder, but sometimes there could be a few left shoulders, there could be what we call a few right shoulders as well. But essentially what we're going to see is like buyers coming back out to buy at higher prices or kind of like higher lows, right? So it's like higher lows that we form up right here. If this is another low, a higher low, and eventually it breaks this resistance level, right? When we break this 180 or maybe 190 level, right, that is a sign of strength, and that's a sign whereby this stock could potentially see a good reversal from down that we've seen over the past few years to potentially moving up, right? And especially if we can hold above this level. So as I say, right, it doesn't mean if we were to break this like 180, it means that it's good, right? It will just reverse and go all the way up. No, it might not happen, right? Because we might just break up, right? It might consolidate above, and if it actually comes back down again, right? For example, we might like consolidate here. All right, but if it breaks back down again, below this like new support level, then that's not a good thing. That shows that we are pretty much back to the same consolidation phase. But if we stay above this level, then that could be a really good sign, whereby buyers are prepared to take it higher. It might start to consolidate and we form higher lows as it moves up. All right, guys, there we have it. We have pretty much covered the reversal chart patterns, and I've talked about the head and shoulder patterns, which is pretty much a reversal from the upwards direction to the downwards direction, and also the inverse head and shoulder pattern, which is from like the downwards direction reversing to the upwards direction. So I hope you now have a clearer picture on the reversal chart patterns, especially on the head and shoulder and inverse head and shoulder. You get a better understanding on where to see a confirmation, all right, and where to actually take a trade, and what are some of the mistakes not to make, all right, when you're trading patterns like this, right? So if you like this video, guys, let me know in the comments, give me a like as well, and of course smash the subscribe button so that you will not miss out on any videos like this. Let me know in the comments below what's your biggest takeaway from reversal chart patterns. All right, let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one of your comments. All right, so thank you so much for watching. Joey here. I'll see you in the next video.